Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a thriller novel by Swedish author Stieg Larsson, and the first book in the Millennium Series. The story follows journalist Mikael Blomkvist, who is hired by Henrik Vanger, the former CEO of Vanger Corporation, to investigate the disappearance of his niece, Harriet Vanger, which occurred 40 years ago. Blomkvist is assisted by Lisbeth Salander, a young computer hacker with a troubled past. The novel begins with Blomkvist losing a libel case against a prominent businessman, which leads to him being sentenced to 3 months in prison and a hefty fine. He resigns from his position at the magazine he co-founded, Millennium, and decides to take a break from his career. During this time, he is contacted by Henrik Vanger, who offers him a job investigating the disappearance of his niece, Harriet. Blomkvist reluctantly accepts the job and begins to investigate the case. Blomkvist spends several weeks interviewing members of the Vanger family and poring over old documents, but he is unable to make any progress in the case. He is then introduced to Lisbeth Salander, a young computer hacker who has been hired by Henrik Vanger to conduct a background check on Blomkvist. Blomkvist is impressed by Salander's skills and offers her a job assisting him in the investigation. Blomkvist and Salander uncover a series of clues that lead them closer to the truth about Harriet's disappearance. They discover that Harriet was last seen on the day of a family gathering, and that several members of the Vanger family had motive and opportunity to kill her. They also learned that Harriet had been investigating the Vanger family's involvement in Nazi war crimes during World War II. As the investigation progresses, Blomkvist and Salander become romantically involved. However, their relationship is complicated by Salander's troubled past. Salander is a victim of sexual abuse and has spent much of her life in and out of psychiatric institutions. Blomkvist and Salander eventually uncover a series of photographs that link Harriet's disappearance to a series of brutal murders that occurred in the 1960s and 1970s. They realize that the killer is still alive and is still preying on young women. Blomkvist and Salander work tirelessly to catch the killer before he strikes again. In the end, they are able to solve the case and bring the killer to justice. However, the novel ends on a bittersweet note. Blomkvist and Salander part ways, each returning to their separate lives. The novel leaves open the possibility of future collaborations between the two investigators. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a complex and thrilling novel that delves deep into the characters' lives and motivations. It explores themes of sexual abuse, corruption, and misogyny, and provides a scathing critique of Swedish society. The novel was a huge success in Sweden and internationally, and spawned 2 sequels, The Girl Who Played with Fire and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. The Girl Who Played with Fire is the second novel in the Millennium series by Swedish author Stieg Larsson. The novel continues the story of Lisbeth Salander, a young computer hacker, and Mikael Blomkvist, a journalist and editor of Millennium magazine. The novel opens with Lisbeth Salander returning to Sweden after spending a year traveling abroad. She has accumulated a large amount of money from her various hacking jobs and is looking forward to settling down and enjoying her newfound wealth. However, her plans are disrupted when she becomes the prime suspect in a triple murder case. Meanwhile, Mikael Blomkvist is investigating the sex trafficking trade in Sweden for an upcoming issue of Millennium. He discovers that many high-ranking government officials and business leaders are involved in the trade, and that Lisbeth Salander has been researching the same topic. Blomkvist attempts to contact Salander to get her assistance with the investigation, but he is unable to reach her. As the investigation progresses, it becomes clear that Salander is being framed for the murders. She goes on the run, and Blomkvist begins to investigate her past in order to clear her name. He discovers that Salander's troubled childhood and history of abuse have left her with a deep mistrust of authority figures and a tendency towards violence. Blomkvist's investigation leads him to a group of former Soviet spies who are plotting revenge against Salander for a perceived injustice from her past. He also discovers that Salander's father, Alexander Zalashenko, was a high-ranking Soviet agent who defected to Sweden and was given immunity in exchange for his secrets. Zalashenko is revealed to be the mastermind behind the plot against Salander. As Blomkvist and Salander work to unravel the plot against her, they become romantically involved. They also enlist the help of a group of Salander's hacker friends to assist them in their investigation. The group eventually discovers that the murders were committed by Ronald Niederman, Zalashenko's son and Salander's half-brother. Niederman is revealed to be a hulking giant who is impervious to pain and is on the run from the police. In the climactic scene, Salander confronts Niederman and is able to subdue him using her martial arts skills. She is then able to use evidence from Niederman's computer to clear her name and prove her innocence. Zalashenko is also killed during the confrontation. In the aftermath of the case, Salander goes into hiding and severs all contact with Blomkvist. She leaves him a message saying that she needs time to sort out her life, but that she will be in touch. The novel ends on a hopeful note, with the possibility of future collaborations between Salander and Blomkvist. The Girl Who Played with Fire is a dark and suspenseful novel that explores themes of abuse, revenge, and corruption. It provides a deep dive into Salander's troubled past and her relationship with authority figures. The novel was a critical and commercial success, and has been adapted into several films and TV series. The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest is the third and final novel in Stieg Larsson's Millennium series. The novel picks up immediately where the previous book, The Girl Who Played with Fire, left off. Lisbeth Salander is recovering from the injuries she sustained during her confrontation with Ronald Niederman, and is in police custody awaiting trial for the murders she was falsely accused of committing. Mikael Blomkvist is continuing his investigation into the sex trafficking trade and the corrupt government officials who are involved in it. As the novel progresses, it becomes clear that Salander is not the only one who is in danger. Blomkvist and his colleagues at Millennium are targeted by a shadowy organization known as the Section, which is dedicated to preserving the secrets of the Swedish government and will go to great lengths to silence anyone who threatens to expose them. Salander's trial becomes a high-profile media event, with the prosecution seeking to portray her as a violent and mentally unstable individual. However, her lawyer, Annika Giannini, is determined to prove her innocence and enlists the help of Blomkvist and his team to gather evidence to exonerate her. As the trial proceeds, Salander's backstory is explored in greater detail, revealing the extent of the abuse she suffered at the hands of her father, Alexander Zalashenko, and the government officials who protected him. It is also revealed that Salander has a twin sister, Camilla, who has been working with the Section and is determined to see Salander convicted. In a parallel storyline, Blomkvist and his team are continuing their investigation into the sex trafficking trade and are able to uncover evidence that implicates high-ranking government officials in the crimes. They publish the story in Millennium, which leads to a public outcry and puts pressure on the government to take action. In the climactic scene, Salander is able to escape from the courtroom and goes on the run, pursued by both the police and the Section. She is eventually cornered in her childhood home, where she faces off against her sister Camilla and her father Zalashenko, who has been revealed to still be alive. In a tense and violent confrontation, Salander is able to defeat her enemies and bring the Section to justice. She is also able to reconcile with her long-lost half-brother, and with Blomkvist, with whom she had a tumultuous relationship throughout the series. The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest is a thrilling and satisfying conclusion to the Millennium series. It brings together the various threads of the previous two novels and provides closure for many of the characters. It is also a scathing critique of the Swedish government and its complicity in corruption and abuse. The novel was a posthumous release, as Stieg Larsson passed away before it was published, but it has been widely acclaimed and has cemented his legacy as one of the most influential crime fiction writers of the 21st century.